He looked around at the mess and then at me. Well, we could talk about it, but you'd just say you're not worth talking to. We could fight over it, but you'd just thump my rump. The brown buck chuckled as he shrugged. At least with cleaning therapy, you work off some of your guilt issues, and I get a clean operating room. And with that, he trot out and left me to my work. I laughed despite everything, shaking my head. Security. Blows up battleships and cleans floors. All I had to do was learn to cook, and I'd be perfect. I played some of Mixer's finest, and an hour later, I had the room as clean as I could get it. The constant activity was helping me figure out some of the weirdness in my body, too. Finally, I dumped out the buckets and put everything away. I looked at the covered jar next to the beeping equipment, but couldn't bring myself to look inside. After all, what would I do if she looked back? Instead, I trotted out into the recovery room, glanced into the small office, and turned off the tunes. The brown buck had his head on his hooves, snoring brokenly as he slumped over his desk. I sighed, looked around, and spotted a threadbare pre-war jacket. I draped it over his shoulders and then closed the door behind me. So, what was there to do at Ten Pony Tower at 2 in the morning? I trotted over to the crates. Birthday presents in '99 were usually some extra portion of recycled yogurt or maybe a free bump to the head of your breeding queue voucher. I looked at my thrashed saddlebags and shot-up armor. The poor rearing filly patch was stained brown and half peeled off. The word security had so many bullet holes and dings in it was hard to tell if it was security or secretary. I looked at the shredded duct tape that still clung to the legs. I sighed, running my hoof over the chewed and patched Kevlar. I smiled as I saw vigilance. My horn couldn't even flicker, but I cradled it in my hooves as I lifted it out. Well, I would need more practice using a mouth grip anyway. Then I looked down at said grip. A new name had been carved into it. Blackjack. I sniffed as I looked at the list of names, from Card Trick to myself. I looked at Tarot. Could there somehow be some way that Tarot was Twilight's child? And the gun had been passed down from mother to daughter to me? I pressed the cool metal slide of the weapon into my warm brow and sighed. Then I set the pistol aside. Beneath that box was one box from Bottle Cap. My collection. She'd clearly meant a collection of ammunition. I looked at the box of ammo and then recalled what Rampage had said. Filling my saddlebags with bullets in this moment might not go over well with 10 Pony security. I wondered how they got in the crate in. Panic? Rush? Threats? I covered it up. Really, why confiscate ammo anyway? It seemed more energy efficient to confiscate weapons. But it wasn't my show. Besides, I doubted it'd be as easy to get vigilance taken from me than bullets for the gun. Beneath that was a box filled with a bottle of Buck, Party Time Mentols, some Dash Inhalers, Rad-X, a Rat Away, and as well as a little jar of bright blue dust that I assumed was moon dust. It seemed that Caprice had been all out of Med-X. Still, there was a little note. Sorry. I'd probably give most of the box to Helping Hoof. Underneath that was some black reinforced leather barding. I pulled it out and checked it over for cutie marks. None. It had a pony skull on the flank, and written on the back was Reapers over the number 99. An old hoofball uniform. Sadly, it was in better condition than my combat armor. It looked close, and I saw that 99 had once been 66, altered just for me. I wondered if Lacuna was behind it. In a small cardboard box were a dozen cupcakes with red and white swirling frosting, and a little happy birthday card from Homage. I tried one. It was good. Really good. I felt a sick knot in my stomach, or where my stomach had been. Was it now my reprocessor? Was that where the guilt came from? An old battered book from Triage, the Canterlot Journal of Medicine. Well, it'd be good reading for Glory in any case. Finally, the last box held 3 things from chapel. The first was a note from Priest. I've known many ponies who've gone to Celestia. Now I'm thrilled to know a pony who's come back. No matter how black things become, there's always, inevitably, a dawn. I sniffed and felt a sick little joy that I still had tear ducts. I supposed even Cyber Eyes would get pretty itchy without them. Helpinghoof was right. I felt so damn guilty. I didn't deserve any of this. I sighed, swallowing as I pulled out a small gold and silver pendant in the shape of Celestia rising the sun. I'd give it to P21. I set it aside and saw 6 bottles of wild Pegasus in all their amber glory. Exactly what I needed right now. And if I was somehow incapable of getting drunk, then I was going to have Glory turn off my liver. But then, at the bottom, was the absolute perfect present. It was from Charity, and it was precisely what I needed right then. An invoice. I just finished sorting the presents and was sitting on one of the recovery room beds playing with my fingers when the doors in the entry room opened. I glanced over through the open folding divider, expecting Glory. Maybe she'd washed and wanted to finish snoozing here with me. But instead a young mare poked her head in. She looked like hell, with shadows under her eyes and a definitely frazzled expression. I noticed her stable barding and pip buck and smiled. She looked over at me and my wiggling appendages. I gave a half smile. Hey, I have thumbs. The little unicorn almost skidded to a stop, and she gave me the look. The look that said that she was assessing whether or not I bore hostile intent, and that the color of her EFS would determine if I was about to receive holes or not. But after a second, the unicorn relaxed. Sorry, she said as she rubbed her rumpled mane. She's definitely been through the ringer. Doc, you've got business, I called at once. The black unicorn and the brown Pegasus buck, who followed, were only slightly better off. The zebra in the black was the only one who didn't look half shot to hell. I went back to fiddling. It'd take more than a medical journal to make me worthwhile in some situations like this. Besides, none of her friends were really critically injured, though clearly they'd been well chewed by the wasteland. The black unicorn had a nasty scar along her leg that bespoke a dire injury. At that moment, though, the friends were more engaged in arguing with each other than whatever had brought them through the door. I took a long swig off one of my bottles. And that, little Pip, is why you don't go trotting right up to Red Eye's folks to have a chat. It's specifically why you don't do it alone, the brown-winged cowpony said just before he drank down a healing potion. If we hadn't been ready. Little Pip groaned. Red Eye would have done it, she muttered, as she glared at the purple potion before her. The black unicorn sighed as her own nicks and injuries healed. Well, while I admire your attempt at diplomacy, I'm afraid that, in the face of alicorns, griffins, and this army, it was a little, overambitious. I then noticed something out of the corner of my eye and turned. The zebra was a hoof's reach away and was just watching me. She didn't glare or frown, but I had the distinct impression that if I sneezed wrong, she'd turn me into pulped pony. Hi, I said, blinking. She didn't respond. I lifted the bottle of whiskey in my hooves. Drink? She still didn't respond. Okay, am I going to have to kiss you to make you relax? I'd seen those eyes before. That probably wouldn't be good. She's had a bad experience with another cyber pony, the charcoal unicorn said, fighting a yawn. I looked again at the zebra. A bad experience. Like P21 had his whole life in 99. Like I'd had. My nethers clenched and I dropped my gaze for a moment. Then I looked into her eyes and said, I know what it's like. I'm sorry. Because I knew what it was like. And I was sorry any pony or zebra had to go through it. Her expression didn't soften in the slightest, but she finally looked away from me. Helping Hoof fought another yawn as he passed out a tray of healing potions. Well, you all made it out alive. It could be worse, he said as he made sure that the potions went down. It nearly was. I almost lost a leg, the black unicorn said as she showed off the gnarly scar ringing her foreleg. The healing potion had smoothed its lines a bit, but that was the kind of mark you carried for the rest of your life. I knew. I still had them decorating any part of me that wasn't metal. Just one? I asked with a small smile, tapping my hooves together. Oh, hello, awkward. Welcome to the party, just take a seat anywhere. She flushed and looked away as I shook my head. Sorry. The Pegasus stallion looked at the brown bottle between my hooves. Is that Wild Pegasus? I couldn't help it. I grinned and said in my best Dusty Trails drawl, Surely is, partner. Only the finest single malt whiskey made from the greatest barley in all of Equestria, stored in oak casks for a minimum of 10 years and bottled in custom enchanted preservation bottles. Guaranteed to ruffle your feathers, curl your tail, polish your horn, and get you good and fuckered up. I knew that from the back of the label. He nickered, his eyes lighting up like he'd just seen the sunrise. I tossed him the bottle. He blinked as he caught it with his hooves. Here. You're just giving it to me. He stared in amazement. I nodded. I had more. Why not? Well, shoot my nuts and call me a mare. This is really nice, stranger. Blackjack, I replied, digging out a second bottle with my mouth. Calamity, he said, and my friends are Little Pip, Velvet Remedy, and Zenith. He added with gestures at the appropriate ponies. We tapped the bottles together and shared a drink. Well, it burned smooth and sweet and rested with a warm glow in my... Well, there was a warm glow somewhere in me. And that was what mattered. He wiped his mouth with a hoof. Oh my, that surely is the real deal. Can almost taste the sky barley. Sky barley? Heh, you can get 6 months for possession of this stuff back home. Food waste. He snorted in disgust, and then looked at me, holding the bottle between my hooves. Why are you drinking it like that? Oh, yeah, my horn doesn't work, I said with a smile and a shrug. Got chiseled off a few days back. What was that? Awkward? You want to bring your whole family? Well, sure, come on in. Now Little Pip and Velvet were staring. What? Velvet flushed, then said to Helping Hoof, Anyway, enough of our little problems. When can you take care of Little Pip's, little problems? She asked with a flush. The brown Rith pony looked at the little unicorn. Oh, well, unfortunately, there's going to be a bit of a delay. We had to purge another patient's contamination earlier. It was amazing to see how hard they tried not to stare at me. I looked indolently back as I sipped from my bottle. Personally, if she didn't have jelly legs, I thought she'd live. Clearly, Little Pip wasn't worried, as she sighed. It's not my problem. Look, why don't you 3 go up to your rooms, clean up, and catch some shut-eye? I'll wait here till they're ready. Velvet frowned. I don't know, I think one of us should stay with you. Little Pip scowled slightly. Calamity or I? I get a bottle of wild pea, and you're telling me I have to drink it alone? Calamity whined, wagging his eyebrow at the black unicorn. She blushed quite rosily. I will stay with her, the zebra said softly. No offense meant, Zenith, but once the rest of the populace wakes, they might not take well to your presence. Helping Hoof motioned. A zebra in a tower full of ponies. Yeah, I didn't see that ending well, particularly this zebra. She reminded me of Lancer rather than Sakashi. At least you could laugh with Sakashi. Zenith scared the piss out of me.